All
Perfect.
right.
It'll be
All
great.
right, ready, and
All right. Welcome to Bring Making to Your Classroom. This is a panel discussion with some of the makers from around Michigan, including Bethany Arsenault, Jennifer Bond, John Hester, Nick Provenzano, Erica Souders, and Chris Woods. Nick was unable to make it, but Nick is one of the lead makers in Michigan from the University Liggett School. He is the makerspace director there and has written some books about how to start a makerspace, and you can follow him on Twitter at The Nerdy Teacher. This is a peek into some of the spaces he has. I am Jennifer Bond, and I am a design technology teacher in Walled Lake, Michigan at Clifford Smart Middle School. I can be found at Team Bond on Twitter. And here's a little peek into my makerspace. I have a classroom that children design in and do classroom things, but then I also have the old wood shop that has been turned into our makerspace that we use here and there. And now we have Bethany Arsenault from Pinckney at Country Elementary. Do you want to say hi?
Okay, yeah, I'm the tech coach, and I also teach a class called 4C, which focuses on the 4 C's, and I also run our makerspace for our school. This year we did a lot of robotics, and we did the Wonder League robotics competition, and instead of doing it as an after school club, which is usually what we do, we made it part of the curriculum to satisfy all of the standards, or a lot of the standards with the kids, and they loved it. So it was part of our world for about 3 months, 2 days a week for 45 minutes. So I teach kindergarten through 3rd grade, and my class is a combination of makerspace and technology and different things like that. So we've gotten pretty passionate about 3D printing, and we work with our new tech high school, and the little kids teach the big kids about 3D printing, and then they help them with a lot of the reading, the higher level thinking and the collaboration that they learn in new tech. And then they make all kinds of things, from bubble wands to boats to, we race them in these gutters that we made, and now we're making face shields for different hospitals and different things. So that's what we're doing with 3D printing. And you can go to the next. I think I have one more. We'll talk about that later, because we're going to talk about how we can fund different things. But this is just some interesting ways we store things in our makerspace, and we have a Lego wall and take things apart and get to do all that fun thing. So that's about it.
Good deal. Next up was going to be John Hester. I do not believe he is on yet. So John Hester is the media specialist at Keith Elementary and Glengarry Elementary in Walled Lake. He was also the Maine Librarian of the Year last year. And he has a whole STEAM center in the back of the media center at Glengarry, and does a lot with different STEM kits, STEAM kits, and Sphero robotics, and really bringing in makerspace literacy into the media center. So here's some peeks at the books that he has shared. If you want to look up some of the books, you can go to tinyurl.com/makerspacebooks. And he's also done a lot with Sphero robotics. And this was just a little obstacle course that the kids used to code their Sphero to do different things in the media center, or in the STEAM center. And now we have Erica.
Hi, everybody. I'm Erica Souders. I teach at Novi Middle School in Novi, and I'm the 7th and 8th grade STEM teacher, and I'm also a computer science teacher. Some of the projects that you're looking at, we do paper roller coasters with our 8th grade, and we go through the engineering design process through all of our projects. In the upper right-hand corner, we use Makey and Scratch to do game design with coding. And then Makey, we used to make game controllers with cardboard and graphite. In the bottom, you'll see we've 3D printed stamps for kindergarten students at one of the local elementary schools. So students had a lot of fun with that. We had to do those a few different times to get the dimensions correct. The first stamp that we made, the dimensions we used, it took like 6 hours and 45 minutes to 3D print. So the stamps that you're looking at on your screen took about 45 minutes to print. So those are some projects we do in 7th and 8th grade STEM. On the next screen, in the upper left-hand corner, one of my favorite, which I'll talk more about later, one of my favorite things to use is the MACUL kit, where we can build with cardboard. I also have a woodshop portion to my class. So we make CO2 cars, we create a metal box, and then you'll see we create some jigsaw puzzles. I had a student create Peppa Pig as a jigsaw puzzle, a cat. We do sports things with jigsaw puzzles. And so it's just it's a lot of, everything's changing all the time in STEM, so that's what's so fun about teaching it.
All right, and last but not least, we have Chris Woods.
Hey there, I'm Chris Woods. I teach high school math in Calumet, Michigan, way up in the Upper Peninsula. And I've been a math teacher, but my goal is always to try to draw those STEM things, the maker ideas into every classroom. For me, it's a lot about trying to make my algebra or my geometry class that I teach very hands-on, trying to find ways to connect with kids, especially using their interests and drawing those things into the connections that they can make with math. And instead of having like some pictures of some projects, so these pictures, I think a big thing is just making sure that you've got some space to have some stuff for your kids. I don't have a big classroom. I don't have a lot of space for a maker space or a lot of robotics, or even, I don't even have a 3D printer in my room. But what I do have is I have cardboard for kids to be able to build with. I have lots of construction paper and recyclables and just every kind of thing that could allow them to create and do and make. So that's what I try to do a lot of, and I do have a project that I'll kind of show everybody here whenever's a good time. But if people want to find out more about me, they just have to go to dailystem.com or at dailystem on any social media.
All right, so we are actually going to talk about some of the favorite maker tools we have. So since we have you, why don't you be the first one?
All right, so I'm gonna tip my camera down here, and I'm gonna show you an idea that I do a lot in my hands-on geometry class to help build a little bit of spatial visualization idea. So this is basically what you would consider a I guess you could say just a base plan of a building. So this means 1 block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks. Give the kids the direction of where that is. That's the front of the building. And so then just using either some centimeter cubes that you can order a whole box full of them or a container full of them, or you could use your Bloxels cubes. They work the same because a lot of people have those. And so I'm just going to stack up and build this building. And what that does is that gives me 2 different options now. So the first thing that I always teach my students is how to draw these 2-dimensionally. So like you would think, like an architect would draw. So they would draw it from the front and the right side and the left side and the back side. And if you build it on a piece of scrap paper and have kids label it, then that helps them to be able to just turn it on their desk. I tell them, pretend that you're this tall and you're looking at that building. What do you see? And it's almost like thinking like a silhouette. So this building from the front would look like, and can we see the pencil, or do I need to go to marker yet? So
No, we see it.
all right, thank you for the help panel. Great people in this panel, by the way, here. So this is what this building looks like. That's the front view of my building. And as you turn it and have the kids draw it, and of course I always tell the kids, hey, don't complain if the blocks are too small. My hands are bigger than all of yours, and I can do it too. So It does take a little bit of steady hands. So here's what it looks like from the right. And as they start to draw from all four sides, they start to be able to visualize things differently. They realize that front and back are a reflection image of each other, as the right and the left are. So what we always do is, for a set of building plans, a set of building plans is just the base, front, and right of a building. This is called the building plan, and this is called the base plan. That's called the building plans. So that's the first step. That helps kids to be able to visualize things two-dimensionally. You could say, could I add blocks to it so that it doesn't change? Could I take blocks away so that the building doesn't change? And you can get them thinking about all sorts of different things. But then the next part is the fun part. The kids love this, probably one of the best things all year long. So I give them what's called isometric dot paper. And if anybody needs, it's basically just dots kind of at an angle. And if you need this, I have them on my website at dailystem.com/resources. You can download it either as landscape or portrait, either way. Sometimes it works better either way. Let me just show you real quick how you would draw one block. So you would draw, and then the top of that block, and there's one block. And if you want, you can teach the kids to kind of shade the top, just to kind of give it that little bit of three-dimensional look to it. And I say, okay, let's draw it from the front right corner. And so then they have to really think about, what does this building look like? There's a stack of 3 blocks here, and then a stack of 2, and that's going to be a little bit trickier because you're not going to see both of those blocks there in that stack. So you're only going to see part of that one, and that's where that shading is going to help out as well. And you can start to make, a little more difficult buildings. You can do all sorts of different things. But basically, once kids start drawing like this, they start realizing, hey, Mr. Woods, this is just like Minecraft. And you're like, yes, it is. And it's really just like helping those kids to be able to visualize things. And when I do this in my class, then it helps everything that we do with all the other aspects of geometry, whether it's surface area or volume. It just helps things tremendously. And then I can have them draw it from all 4 corners. For fun, I can tell them you can try to draw your name. So I've always found that kids have a lot of fun with this. Of course, I'm drawing upside down, and that's a teacher's skill, right? We all can help a kid at their desk. We can draw upside down. So the best font style, I guess, to do this, and it's called isometric drawing, is to kind of draw blocks or letters that are 5 blocks high and 3 blocks wide. And it's kind of fun. Kids just love it. It's called isometric drawing. And basically, once you start and then you leave that paper somewhere in your classroom, the kids will always say, hey, can I draw that? Or, hey, I've got an idea. And kids just draw incredible things when you just leave paper out and see what they come up with. So I do have, if you need some more tutorials, I do have a blog post on my website that is about isometric drawing with some videos and things if anybody needs any help. Obviously, just also reach out and ask me. So
Very nice. Thank you. All right.
It's simple.
Yeah, that is. You don't need a lot of space. It can be done in any classroom. So thank you.
Yep.
All right, Bethany, would you like to share next?
Sure. I like that activity because you took like the concrete and then you made it abstract, and that's kind of where it's just a really cool connection.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to probably talk about the robot since we did more of that this year and we tied it into other subjects, but I have these robots. What we did is we took Wonder League, which is Wonder Workshop. They have a yearly competition. And so what is really nice about their competition is they tie a ton of makerspace stuff and design and different things into their competition. I think this year it was about 75% makerspace and design, and then 25% actual coding. So what I did is I tried to turn it into the curriculum. So what's really nice about these robots is they're really easy to use. We organize them. I think that was probably the best thing that we learned this year, is just organizing things a little bit and then just let the kids go. It gives them sort of that experience and being all of the different roles that they would like to try, but with a little bit of guidance to start. So all of our robots are Star Wars names, and then the iPads are matched. Oops, turned them on. They're matched up with the iPad named Darth Vader, you know, like that's Darth Vader. And so it's pretty easy for them to pair them, because sometimes with robots in a class, they all start pairing and then it's craziness. So they know who their robot is the whole time. They're teams of 4. I had 20 teams. I had 3 third grade classes that met twice a week. And then I had kids at lunch popping in during their afternoon recess. They would pull out a mat. We really tried to do things that were not so expensive. So we went to flooring stores and got big pieces of vinyl donated. It was like flooring that people didn't pick up, and they have those really cool cutting machines, and they cut them into 5x8, and then we just used painter's tape to tape out the 30 centimeter by 30 centimeter squares. So to give them the experience of being on a team doing a makerspace project with a robot, we gave them jobs. And so this is not to say that these jobs didn't overlap, but it was just nice that for each mission, they had a new job. And so, for example, our makerspace is not in my room. It's a little bit down the hall. So we had the designer, and we made these cool little badges, and they're really proud, and they wear them, and they're, you know. And then on the back, it says what they do. So the designer, you know, creates the set design and listens to their team, obviously. But they're the only one that gets to go to the makerspace to get the supplies. So we don't have, you know, 25 8-year-olds in there, you know, going crazy. The robot resetter is the one that after they run the code and there's might be an error, they're going to reset the robot every time. And we always say this is the most important job, because if you don't set the robot in the right spot, it's not going to run the program the same way. And then there's the programmer. They hold the device that has the code on it. The kids tell them what code to put in, and they work together, but the programmer puts in all the code and connects to the robot, and they have all these. And then there's the project manager, and the project manager posts to Seesaw. We use Seesaw to document, which is really cool, because I make a classroom called robotics for 3rd grade, and the parents can see their process as they're going through it, even when they're failing. Like there's videos on there, like when the code just doesn't work and you get, you know, a kid who's just like, but then next week, you know, they get that mission, they complete that mission, and then it's like a victory, and they're hugging and dancing and break dancing on the mat. So Seesaw, I think, is huge, because they can take a screenshot of their code, put it on Seesaw. They can videotape all their reflections, because there's a lot of reflections. And we use this as I have to do a teacher goal that's a reading. I chose a reading goal, and so, in reading and writing. And so they have to write out their reflections and then read them on Seesaw. So, and it's all done collaboratively. So these were huge. And I think you could do that with any maker project, just to, especially with younger kids, just to get them, you know, okay, you're the designer this week. Doesn't mean that you can't help out with the programmer, and you can't help out if someone's absent, or, you know, sometimes there was 2 kids there and the other 2 kids were absent. Well, guess what? You have 2 jobs, and you have to, and they had the same team the whole entire couple of months we did this. The other great thing about the robot and the mat is that it teaches you degrees. And so the kids by the end could tell you what's, you know, what 90 degrees look like, what 180 degrees look like. And then on the slide, I have a clickable link that says, look at the reflection videos. At the end, we did each team did a reflection video using, they had to create a video anyway, and they had to teach a lesson using the robot. And a lot of them did like measurement and angles, and then they had to do like this complete reflection on what the whole process was. So we did a banquet during the day, and parents came, and I printed, in fact, I don't have one here, but I printed a little tiny miniature robot that's probably about this big, and they each got a little trophy, and I printed 80 of them, which was an eternity, but they they loved them. So I was really excited, and they got to get up, and it was like, the kids said it was like a sport. We had extra lockers in our school. Each team had a team locker. They would throw all their cardboard and their, all of their stuff for their set design. Because a lot of the missions have set designs that is just costumes for the robot. They had to build buildings, and they had to build trees. And I didn't give them any direction on it. I said, well, you're going to need a tree, and it has to be, smaller than 30 centimeters. And I highly recommend it. I mean, if you're looking for a maker space, something where you're making with your kids, but there's direction, I think it's a really good way to start. So that's kind of what I've been doing. So
thanks so much for sharing. That's awesome. And that you do that, is it after school or during school?
Nope, it's 100% during school.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Erica, would you like to go next?
Sure. So one of the tools I mentioned earlier that I love is MakeDo, where you can build with the cardboard. But I've switched it to, I'm loving Tinkercad right now, because as we're moving to online learning, I'm thinking, how am I going to move STEM online? I have a woodshop portion where we make CO2 cars, we make jigsaw puzzles. I have the 3D printing. We made these kindergarten stamps and printed them. Students had to learn, that you have to flip the name, like on Tinkercad. If you don't flip the name, it won't stamp right. So one of the things that I'm going to be loving now is Tinkercad, because I can still go through the engineering design process with my projects, ask, imagine, plan. Then when we create, they're going to be creating on Tinkercad instead of a woodshop, because I'm assuming many don't have a woodshop at home. So we can still do the design planning, and then when students create the 3D stamps, maybe next year in 8th grade, they could print them with our 3D printers. So that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. Is my favorite tool is going to be Tinkercad. So they can still create, and like Bethany was saying, convert, like they're converting millimeters to inches or whatever dimensions I'm giving them for them to create. So right now, it's Tinkercad is going to be my good friend during this online learning time.
Awesome. As far as the tool that I'm going to show, I think I'm going to try to go online and do a screen share. Hopefully it will work. But one of the things that I've gotten into is physical computing. And with physical computing, we use Circuit Playground Express from Adafruit, and then we have our microbits. And then a new one from a Michigan company is actually the BrainPad. And the BrainPad allows you to code a video game. And we do that using arcade.makecode.com. And so I wanted to share just the BrainPad because it's something that's still fairly new and the kids are enjoying making their own video games. But one of the things that people always ask, like, how do you store it? So I have one of these like photo storage kits that ideally, I mean, it's supposed to be used for like pictures and 50 pictures in each container. But this allows me to see through to make sure that all of the elements and USB cords and everything else are getting returned when they are being launched off in the class. And I have, just each device is inside one of these. So that has been a huge thing as far as organization. And when I've done the physical computing, I haven't said, you must use this device. I kind of do an overarching, it goes along with our computer science and saying, okay, here are some ways you have to physically create something that integrates the computer science aspect of it. So kids get that flexibility, but they're all kind of focusing on the physical computing. And I'm going to attempt to see, we'll see. If I do that, and, oh, it's not gonna go, is it? No, I don't think it's gonna, ooh, there. Can you see that? Can you see my screen? Okay, so this is the way that the arcade.makecode, you get the virtual side. So even if you don't, like my students are not going to have these in front of them, but they can virtually code the Circuit Playground Express, the microbit, or the BrainPad and the BrainPad right here live on the internet. And they can create the code very easily. And the thing that I like about the BrainPad, the arcade thing, is that they can create their own sprites. And so you get to customize your sprites however you want. And the kids really enjoy seeing their artwork come to fruition, like within the game, and actually downloading it. Seeing that little button is now down or underneath there, and I can't get to it. But you can customize your sprites, and there's complex games that you can play with, like this somebody else, the creators of this created this game, but you can still play it online if it pops up. And as you can see, there's like a ton of code. And the spinning wheel of death is not showing it very well. There it goes. And so you can just go ahead and move the different buttons based on whatever commands you want. And different things like that, which it's not really working very well. But I wonder why it's not working. That's the perfect thing, isn't it?
What was that website again, Jennifer?
It's arcade.makeco.com. And
yeah.
And it allows you to code a bunch of different things, but this is the BrainPad. You can do the pixels, you can have the sprites do a bunch of different things, and right now it's just not wanting to actually play the game. But
what grade levels would you say would be good for this?
How the BrainPad probably is more of the upper elementary, but I would probably even say middle school. Some of my middle school kids have struggled a little bit with it, but the good thing, like with a lot of the resources that they have the tutorials, so you can go through the whole tutorial as far as taking a blank slate and creating a game, and then from that they're able to learn and then create their own. So it's nice. And the Michigan, I mean, they're out of Madison Heights, Michigan, and it's like GHI Electronics in Madison Heights, and they've been wonderful. They even came out and presented to my kids, so it's like a nice Michigan connection. They just recently partnered with Microsoft, and it's just fun because the kids, they can even just download games onto here just for fun. And but then if they want to customize the sprite, so it could be a game that somebody else already created, but you can modify it and then upload it to your device, so you can still have that a little bit of ownership. So they could they have like Crossy Road, or their version of whatever, the Crossy Road, and different versions of Mario type pixel art games. So the kids enjoyed doing that and just playing their own video games.
I like that. That's really cool.
All right. And the next one, instead of going back and forth with all of the screen, because that's just not working very well, do you want to just talk about any ways that you fund a makerspace? What are your best tips for funding a makerspace?
For the little guys, what we do every year is we have a school mascot, which is a penguin, and so we have a birthday party for our penguin, and we get tons and tons of stuff. I mean, especially for kindergarten through third grade, I mean, magic is huge, and they wrap the presents. I mean, I get toilet paper rolls and birthday bags. It is magical how much stuff we get. I mean, we got real, the first year we did it, I asked for some kind of expensive things like toolkits and, different screwdrivers. We got everything on our list and more. And then it just continued. I mean, people just kept bringing in things. But I say, if you make it, there's a reason that we're doing it. Like, there's a reason that you're doing it. Like, you don't even need a mascot. You could just say it's the Makerspace's birthday and, bring in presents. I don't know. It just, I swear, I didn't have to buy tape. I mean, and we do a ton. We have 300 kids, and I didn't have to buy tape till probably January, and we're in there all the time. I don't know. And then if you can tie in your former students too, and just, I don't know, sometimes people, we do like a nerd night, and to get in at nerd night, you have to bring in a roll of duct tape.
Huh?
So yeah, so if you do a STEAM night, make sure, I know we usually make those things free, but if you do that, have something where they can bring something. Like I'm huge on colored painter's tape right now. I'm like, love it because the kids can actually tear it. Whereas duct tape, it usually ends up in like this crazy, I don't know, knot. And so anyway, so that's what I suggest. But for the older kids, it's probably a little bit different of a world. But how do you guys get
learning to, I was going to say, learning to tear duct tape though is an important skill that every person should learn how to do. Okay, that should be a whole unit in everybody's makerspace and STEM classes.
Yeah,
I had high schoolers that couldn't do it, so because we have high schoolers that come, so
they failed in.
So sad.
At my school, I'm very fortunate. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
At my school, I'm very fortunate, that I've asked for certain things and I've gotten them. For example, the make do kits. So all you need is cardboard to build. So I asked our custodian just to save all the cardboard for me, and he brings like every 9 weeks he'll bring me just loads of cardboard, and there's so much that you can do with cardboard. I save water bottles, the plastic ones. I save the paper towel tubes, the toilet paper tubes, any sort of things that you think would be junk. I ask teachers and students to save it and bring it to me. So a lot of it is, if I'm just doing projects, we're just building things. I just ask students, for certain things, if they can just donate, bring it in. It doesn't cost anything. We can use it. So if it's junk, you could probably build with it.
True.
Now listening to that now, as opposed to a month or so ago when MACUL happened, we're going to have to, as maker teachers, think about when we get that stuff, when people donate those things, we're going to have to let it sit and, de-germify for a week or whatever, somehow keep it in seclusion. But, as long as we take those proper precautions, I think we're still going to be okay in that regard too.
That is a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yes, a whole new world for all of our upcycled goods.
The good news is if you print stuff, you can put it in a bleach solution, and it's so if you say anything that's like plastic, at least you can
like cardboard. Now, one of the things that I found this year with the whole Amazon wish list, like the Amazon wish list were amazing. Like at the beginning of the year, when everyone was posting on Twitter and Facebook and all of those things, I didn't even like put it out there to my parent community because I'm like, I didn't even know. I was a brand new teacher at this middle school, and somehow the parents found my list before I even publicized it, and I was getting things in my school mailbox from these parents, that I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. And then when I published it and told the parents about it, I was getting so many things. Like one family donated 4 of the zip cutters, which, for cardboard, that's amazing, or the zip snip. And that was such a, just wonderful, wonderful gift. But again, like tons of duct tape and hot glue sticks. We did the hot glue wands, like the Harry Potter wands. I mean, some kids did Harry Potter, but I mean, we did the hot glue wands. I mean, we went through thousands of glue sticks because I have like 171 kids, and each wand was like built and 3D sculpted with a ton of hot glue. So we went through a lot, and I did start, I learned a lot from my first semester kids that you just can't have hot glue sticks out. I started putting them in my little Home Depot apron and they would have to ask for one because they had fun cutting them or gluing them to other things, and they would throw them around. It was just a little bit of a hot mess. And so now it's much better. Second semester, way better. Did not have that issue. But yeah, because those are expensive. I did find the best deal though was at Meijer. Meijer had the really big packs, cheaper than what I found on Amazon. So that was good. But then I also have really, and it's probably going to be backwards, right? But oh, it's right. So NAEIR.org is a wonderful thing. You have to sign up for the teacher program because you get the cheapest duct tape. Like 6 rolls of duct tape can be $1, could be $3, depending on the type of print. They have masking tape. They have 3M Velcro. They have weird, just lots of creative, good stuff. And markers, sketch markers, really cheap. So that has been one of my best sites to kind of have really cheap maker goods.
One thing that I started doing is painting all my walls screened, because I had multiple green screens because my kids are obsessed with doing green screen videos. And right before school stopped for the year, I had all my second graders doing a poetry unit, and they were recording, and they just made the most amazing things. But I went to Joann Fabrics and got this material, and somebody spilled something on this one, and it's kind of like that stretchy bathing suit material, but you can get it in chroma key green, and it's really cool. So if you're showing off, your boat that you built or whatever, or, sometimes it's fun to show it in a cool way. So they cut off their heads and they, do different bodies. And so I think being creative just with green screen, and we just use that $1.99 app. We're not that fancy, but I can't wait I'm going to help them out by putting those videos out. But that just gave like a outlet for what they created, like made something with cardboard. Oh, can I use the green screen? Mm-hmm. So I think how they share it and being able to communicate in a creative way using a green screen or just using a Flipgrid video is key, because then it shows that no matter what they create, there's an audience and there's someone that they can teach, or they can inspire, or they can just share and have someone enjoy what they did. Like those like the Make Code. I mean, that's awesome that they can create real apps, that people can play. It's just so cool.
Yeah. Chris, do you have any good funding tips or any tips?
My tip is just look around and see what other teachers are throwing away or aren't using, or look for that old closet in your school that is just packed with stuff, and just pull stuff out and see what you can make out of it. And of course, everybody knows, just look at garage sales and yard sales and whatever you can, and just keep accumulating things, but also be willing to go back through and pitch stuff too. I mean, you might say, yeah, we're gonna get to using this, and sometimes you just have to say, I need to make room for something better for my kids, or no, we haven't found a use for it in 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. You might next year end up saying, oh, I wish I had it, but oh well, you'll think of something else. So.
Yeah. All right, now that we're in our COVID shutdown, how have you engaged your students in maker experiences since we've been off, or how do you plan on doing that? I mean, Erica talked about it before. Anyone can pop in.
I wanted to mention what Erica had said about Tinkercad, right? And if people didn't already know, there's a lot of connection between Tinkercad and the website Instructables. And if you haven't ever heard of Instructables.com, you need to check out Instructables.com. And you can just basically search for how to make anything. And there's sorted by categories. You can click on the teacher aspect, and you can search by grade or subject or content. So there's a lot of Tinkercad stuff on there.
I like that one. That's a good. I forgot about Instructables.
Yeah, that's it. I was just like, ooh, I haven't even thought, just that could be a project for my middle schoolers. Just like, your job is, you have a whole week, pick a project from Instructables, showcase it on Thursday or Friday.
Yep. And that's important, because what it does, it gives kids really, I think, what the great opportunity is in this quote unquote shutdown time that we have, this where they get to actually look for something they're interested in and passionate about. If they want to make a game, if they want to make a costume, if they want to practice, learn how to sew or make something out of wood or cook. I mean, there's every type of those categories and more on the site.
That's awesome.
And basically, there's the search box at the top is great. Just
Yeah.
type it. I mean, you can type in, paper airplane launcher, and you'll see 10 different types of launchers that you can make to launch paper airplanes that people have uploaded. And
that's awesome.
And if you create an account, you can actually upload your projects, and they often have prizes and things for those as well. You can, for you as a teacher, you can sometimes get some cool prizes or things like that.
Cool.
As a follow-up to Instructables, what Chris was saying about Instructables, if students picked a project for the week or whatever, they could show on Flipgrid what they made so that they could still present, like Bethany said, you have an audience. They could still present on Flipgrid, and just collaborate that way. And they could, comment on each other's videos. So we could still see each other during this time that we're shut down.
Yeah, that's what we saw.
Yeah, and you were talking about the engineering design process. You could have each kid have to give a comment, hey, what would version 2.0 look like? What would the next iteration look like?
That's a big thing that we worked on because our kids in first grade, they create bubble wands. And my third graders this year said, well, can I update my bubble wand and make a new iteration? And I'm like, yeah, you can. So I loved it because Bella, like her first bubble wand was literally like this crazy, I mean, she loved it, but she looked back at it and said, oh, I can do better, and it's inspiring to see like that they can look back on their old projects in Tinkercad or Instructables and then really understand what the word iteration means.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
This week this week we're on spring break, but last week when we've been teaching online since right at like March 17th. And so one of the things that I've started doing the last 2 weeks is actually taking pictures of the student work of the projects, whether it was our STEM challenge or we did our pixel art through Google Applied Digital Skills. And the Google Applied Digital Skills is wonderful. But I've started like posting kind of like a showcase, like in the classroom, you'd be like, hey, look at this and look at what so-and-so did, but you have to do that virtually now. And what I found is like last week I had a textile challenge where they had to do anything with cloth. And so the kids at the very basic, I said, sew a button on. And it was so cute. Like the kids sewing buttons on their dad's shirts. And one little boy did cross stitch. And which I was surprised. He's like, my mom had a kit or my grandma had a kit and it wasn't used. But one of the boys sewed a mask. And then the next day we did just passion time. So they had the day to themselves to make something. They just had to show it. And there were other kids that were like, I'm going to sew a mask because they saw that somebody did it. So using each other as inspiration, I have found like, it really is important to bring that student voice in and giving them opportunities. And I did a feedback, like I did a survey to get feedback on the videos because I wasn't sure. I'm like, we haven't taught, video based. And the kids said, I really like seeing how other kids have solved these things. I really like seeing the other projects. So I know it's impactful for them.
We, right when I was at MACUL, I started sending home those home learning codes on Seesaw. And what was nice is I could push out different, sorry, we're all Zooming right now in our house. I could push out those projects. So we did like a penny bridge and things that I knew they had at home, I think just to get their feet wet on how to post it on Seesaw and then how to comment. And I had to make sure I was really fast with the feedback so they were used to getting it. We did the toilet paper roll challenge, which I actually saw Jennifer post on Twitter. And so I said, oh my gosh, we could totally do that. So I was inspired because she shared. And so even if you think what your students are doing is maybe not the most spectacular, huge thing, it is though, because you're inspiring another teacher to show their students. So I think right now, we're all sort of supporting each other. And Seesaw has been just huge. And now I think, for the rest of the year, I just really want to make sure that whatever I post, that it's something that's really going to be, exciting and gives them choice and that they can share and then they can comment on each other on each other's work is just huge.
Yeah.
And using Flipgrid, like Erica said, I mean, there's just so many great ways that we can share what we're doing. And what's cool about Seesaw too is they can annotate while they're talking, and so they can be labeling and then pointing, you know, drawing an arrow and saying, you know, when you press this button, you know, a rocket shoots out, and just to make sure that imagination is continuing. And the parents are getting involved too. You know, doing family projects, I think, is huge, especially for younger kids. And, you know, have a big brother or a mom or a dad help you with the project. And like we did a fort challenge and tell us, you know, 3 unique things about your fort. Things like that are just open-ended stuff you have at your house.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm going to use that Chris has on his website at Daily STEM, he has the Daily STEM PDF that you can download. I want to use that. We use a platform called Schoology, so I'm going to use that every week in a discussion board where students can read the Daily STEM and then comment on an article, and students can comment back. And it'll be, you know, instead of we can't discuss it in class, they're going to use the discussion board to talk about the Daily STEM. So thank you, Chris.
Yay. I know. I love your every time you tweet out something,
Yeah.
I just am like, oh my gosh, it's such a practical thing that kids can actually do, but there's so many layers of things they learn when they're doing these things with cardboard or pennies or whatever.
I have the whole list that you have of all of the STEM things. So I have that in like right behind my lesson plan things, just as like, okay, because every Monday I'm doing a STEM challenge. So I'm using that as like inspiration too. So yeah, thank you.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
So when you find something great right now when you're on Twitter or whatever, what hashtags are you using to kind of make sure that you're reaching teachers? Is it like hashtag home learning, hashtag?
I don't.
Like, I was trying to figure that out. I'm like
COVID EDU.
yeah, right.
Doing my part. That I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, I didn't know.
I've been using hashtag remote learning, hashtag distance learning. I've been using hashtag parenting and parenting tips because I think also a lot of parents are looking for ideas too, and you know, and there is so much content. There's so many great ideas on whatever social media you're using, and that's the best part about it. If you're not already on, Twitter is great for it. You know, I mean, also, you know, Instagram and Facebook, but it can kind of get jumbled among other things in those avenues. But when people share stuff, everybody's so willing to just help and say, oh yeah, well I did this, or how did you do that, or can you give me some other ideas, or do you have a link for this, or and it's just incredible.
I know.
But those are just some of the hashtags I've used.
Okay, so they announced the physical, not the physical robot, but they're coming out with like a virtual robot. So you can still use Blockly, like the block coding, and that's what my kids use to control the robot. But now they have one that's going to be on the screen that you can do the same process, but it's going to be on the screen. I was so excited because
fun.
My second graders were really sad because they were in the middle of their unit when it, you know, I mean, everyone was in the middle of something, but
that's what I have. Paper roller coasters, like a ton of them all over the workshop, because they were in the middle of lab 2, and I'm like, what am I going to do with all of these? Like, I hope like when we open up our schools, like come pick up your roller coaster.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm going to be like, I can't throw away kids' work. Like
I have projects too that are just sitting, and I'm like, I don't know, I guess, do I throw them away? I mean, it was a cannon or something. It was important.
Yeah.
There is if you use Bbots with younger kids, there's a virtual Bbot you can use if you search for that on a Terrapin website. Yep. And it complete with all like 12 different mats that it can go on as well. So.
Oh, cool.
Oh, I like that. Thank you.
I just happen to know of that one. So.
I thought about doing,
but again, like you said,
I have all the printers here, so I thought about doing like a kids send me an STL file and I'll print it and send it to them. But then we started printing face shields, so this is what we're doing. And my principal said I can use all the filament we own because it's considered supporting the PPE, and so that's part of the governor's. So if you have filament from your makerspace, you can donate it to a school that is printing PPE which Ann Arbor Schools is, and I mean, a lot of schools are. So
a lot of them.
yeah, so we've been doing that with Operation Face Shield. So I just take them over, and if you have teachers that hoard these, Facebook, they can donate them at the Ann Arbor Distillery in Ann Arbor. So I had teachers that dropped them off on my porch, and I would text them back, really? You had those at your house? You had 500 transparencies at your house? You know, we had smart boards for like, what, 8-9 years?
Yeah.
So it's helping with the hoarding. I think makerspaces help take all of this stuff, like you said, Chris, out of those teachers' cupboards that are never going to use it, and it's becoming an opportunity for a kid. So.
Oh yeah. We just opened up a hard cider brewery, and my husband made all of the little tasting flights. So he had all of the little holes that he had drilled out for the, cups to go in, and they were all in the trash. And I was like, no, someone can do something with it. And it was so cool because my third graders at the time, they made cars, and it was perfect because they just started doing wheel and axle systems from it. And in the next science unit, they were actually going to be doing this. So it was nice to kind of front load that. And it wasn't, you never know with making, that's the thing. Like, you don't know what you give this opportunity of all this like random stuff. And then you can start naming the learning just from their own curiosities. And that's what I think is so wonderful about having maker in your classroom.
I think for the toilet paper roll challenge, like what Jennifer's kids did, a second grader, she made a echo mic. She I don't know, it was cool. She just made this, and she made up a rap about all the teachers and how they motivate her and that she misses them. And it was like 5 minutes long, but it was so funny. It was my favorite thing I've ever watched. So, I mean, it just, right now, kids are not sure what's going on. Even if you tell them, they're still, why am I not going to school? Why can't I, we'll go over to my friend's house. And so by us giving them these projects to be proud of, that isn't a worksheet, I mean, think about what that is, that they're still doing everything they can do, and you're still giving them feedback, however you're contacting these students. I think it's pretty powerful.
Definitely. Any last final words from Chris or Erica?
Just keep up the good work. We're going to get back through it. We're going to get through this and back to school before we know it. And we'll be back in our maker spaces creating with kids. So just have fun on the journey.
Yeah. And if anybody has any questions, reach out to all of us and the others that, that weren't able to join us tonight. There's just so many people willing to help, or ask another teacher at your school. Just be willing to ask, because we're all teachers and we're all in this together. So, and definitely this is also just a great opportunity for us to really do a much better job of connecting with parents and home and helping parents and kids make and create and do together as well. So that's what I'm excited about.
Awesome. All right. Well, then that will be where we will end.